recording. We are recording. So we're looking at problem 1, and we're trying to decide whether this firm, when they're using 1 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital, which is a production level of 10, are they operating with a constant and increasing or decreasing returns to scale? And the way we figure that out is we say, what would happen if they doubled their labor and doubled their capital? What would happen to the output, right? Well, the output now is 10, isn't it? So if they're operating at a constant return to scale, constant return means that when they double their labor and their capital right here, which are factor inputs, the output should double, but it's not. It's not going up to 20, it's going up to 50, which means that they're operating with increasing returns to scale. The percentage increase in their output going from 10 to 50 is much higher than the increase in their factor inputs, which is doubled, going from 1 to 2 and 1 to 2 here. Okay. Now the way I did this over here on the chart is I put in I actually put in a marginal product because we're going to be using that later. So I added this, and this is helpful because this is total output right here. This is the change. This is the marginal product with 1 unit of capital and 1, 2, and 3 units of labor. And this is the marginal product, the change in the total, with 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units of labor and 2 units of capital. Okay, so now the other way that we can figure this out is by looking at the average total cost. So when we're producing only 1, when we're only producing 10 right here, because remember, the problem starts off saying that we're using 1 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital, which means we're right in the chart, we're right here, okay? 1 and 1. So we're producing 10. So the average total cost to produce 10 is the cost of 1 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital, which is 275, which is 275 divided by 10, the number of units. So the average total cost when we only use 1 unit of labor in the capital is $27.50 per unit. Now, when we produce 50, when we go to 2 units of labor and 2 units of capital and produce 50, we can see when we do the math that the cost of 2 and 2 is 550. But since we're producing 50 units, we divide the total cost by the number of units, and we get an average total cost of 11. So if the average total cost is decreasing as you're producing more with more factor inputs, then you could say that you're operating with increasing returns because your cost is going down as you produce more. Okay, so you're operating with increasing returns to scale. So there's 2 ways you can figure out the answer there. Okay, one is just by looking at the ratio. When you're going from 1 to a 2, you're going from 10 to 50, which is a much more. The output is multiplying by 5 when the input's only multiplied by 2. Okay, which means your returns are increasing. Okay, all right. Now the next one question is saying this is why I put in the marginal products here. okay? Because in the next question, it says, assume now that the firm currently is using 2 units of capital and 3 units of labor. Calculate the marginal product for the third unit of labor. Okay, so if we jump back over to my chart and we're using, what did it say again? Let me go back. 2 units, let's see, 2 units of cap, 3 units of labor. Okay, so what is the marginal product for the third unit of labor? Okay, so 2 units. Okay, so if we go back over here, we're over here, right? So going from the second to the third, the marginal product, because we're using two units of labor and 3 units of capital. So our total output is 75. But going from 2 units of labor to 3 took us from 50 up to 75. So the marginal product for that third unit of labor is 25. And that would be your answer. Okay. But what's it actually asking? Let me look here. Yeah, it should be, yeah, a 25. Yeah, okay. Then it says, did the firm, this is asking number 2 here, a B2, did the firm experience diminishing marginal returns with the addition of the third unit of labor? Explain using the numbers from the table. Okay, well, if we put in our marginal products, like I did, you can see that when we're going from 2 to 3 units of labor, whether we use 1 unit of capital or 2, our marginal change is smaller. We still have more, but less than we had going from 1 to 2. Going from 1 to 2, we gained 15 over here and 30 over here. But going from 2 to 3 units of labor, we only gained 13, which is less than a 15, and we only gained, the marginal gain was 25, which is less than 30. So we can say that we had diminishing marginal returns when we added that third unit of labor, and because the marginal products were less for the third unit. Okay. Okay, number 3, calculate the firm's average total cost for its current level of production. Okay, the current level of production is 2 units of capital and 3 units of labor. So whenever they have a B here, and then 1, 2 in these small letters or Roman numerals, then whatever is assumed in this part here holds true for all of it. So we're assuming that they're at a level of production with 2 units of capital and 3 units of labor, which we can add up the total cost right here, 3 times 200 plus 2 times 75, which is the rental rate of capital. This is the wage rate over here. So we get a total cost of $750. And we know that when we are using 2 units of capital and 3 units of labor, our total output is 75. So we just simply divide the total cost by the total output and get an average total cost of $10. Okay. So we did that. Now, part 4, if the firm's output is sold in a competitive market, what is the lowest output price at which the third unit of labor would be high? Now, this is the hardest one. Okay, this is the one that we're jumping ahead to the next chapter a little bit, but I'm going to explain how you get this. Okay, so if it's sold in a competitive market, that means that marginal revenue has to equal the price, and that the wage rate cannot be over the marginal revenue product. Okay, what does that mean? Something brand new here, okay? So the marginal product when the third unit of labor is hired. So that's what the problem actually asks you. Is the firm's output. What is the lowest output price at which the third unit would be hired? Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is figure out what the marginal product was. So the third unit of labor, when this third worker here, we'll just call this a worker, was hired, that worker was able to bring the output up by 25 units. So we say the marginal product, or the change in the output, went from 50 to a 75 by hiring that third worker. So the marginal product, the marginal output is 25. So we know that, okay? So let's jump back down here. The third unit of labor costs $200 because every unit, because we're in a perfectly, see, that's why it's important to know, in a perfectly competitive labor market, the market sets the wage rate. So no matter how many workers they hire, the market dictates they have to pay each unit, and we'll call a unit a worker, it's easier, $200. So we know that third worker had to cost the company $200. That's how much the firm had to pay to get this third worker, okay? So that's the cost. Jump back down here. So we know that. So the marginal revenue product in a perfectly competitive market is going to be the marginal product times the price, okay? The marginal revenue product is going to be the wage rate. And so we know that these have to be equal in order for, and if the, well, let's jump back over here. What is the lowest price, okay? The lowest price would be the highest price, actually. Well, I'll just say lowest. The reason I'm saying the lowest price is because, well, let me just show you. So what we want to do here is we want to make the marginal revenue product, or the wage rate, the nominal wage rate, which is $200 for the third worker, needs to be equal to that third worker's marginal revenue product. And in order for 25 to bring in a revenue of 200, then each one of these units needs to cost $8, okay? The marginal revenue needs to be $8. The marginal revenue is the price, right? That's the revenue. The change in revenue every time they sell one unit is the price, $8. And you'll learn a lot more about this in the next chapter, but it's not that hard if you think about what this is. So they cannot they wouldn't be able to have a price any lower than 8, right? Because if the price was lower than 8, if it was 7, then the marginal revenue here would be 100. I see 7 times 75 would be what? 175. So that they would be paying the worker more than the worker actually brought into the company, because now they're paying, if the price per unit is $8 and the worker is able to produce an added 25 units, then his wage rate, which is $200, equals what he's bringing in dollars. Because if the price for each one of these units is $8, then the marginal revenue product is going to be 25 times 8, which is 200. Okay? So the lowest price for this firm's output would be $8. In order for the marginal revenue product, which is the marginal product times price, to equal the wage rate. Okay? Anybody confused of why it's $8? About why it's $8? Okay, good. And I believe that answers all of those. Yeah, okay. Whew, take a breath. Going to number 2. Okay, these are all very, very similar, but they're not the same. So we're gonna, they're all going to be helpful. So this is showing a table. Now, look at the difference here, okay, in what they're giving you. In this problem right here, they're giving you marginal revenue product per day, okay. Up here, they're only giving you output, like total output, right? So if we were going to put the marginal revenue product up here, for example, for here it would be if the price for up here in problem 1, the marginal revenue product right here would be 25 times the price, which would be 200. So that 200 is what they're giving you in problem 2. So it's the same type of problem, but they're giving you different information. They're giving you price times the marginal product, okay? So the table above, it gives you the short run marginal revenue product of labor per day for a perfectly competitive firm. The firm is currently selling its product at a price of $5. So this problem, they're giving you what in problem 1 they ask you to calculate. So we're going to go backwards here, okay? So they're asking you to calculate the marginal physical product, which is what they're giving you again up here. Actually, not even giving you that. But anyway, they're asking you to calculate the marginal physical product of the third worker right here, okay? So what do? Well, we don't go there. That's what we don't do. We go here. And we look at, I added in something here, right? I added in the marginal product, okay? Because this is the marginal revenue, okay? How did I get this? I divided by 5, okay? Because it said the price was $5, okay? So if the price is $5, then the marginal revenue product is the marginal product times price. So 90 times $5 is 450, right? 100 times $5 is a marginal revenue product of 500. So I was able to work backwards and get the marginal product for every worker, okay? So the marginal product for the 5th worker is 300. And what did it ask for? I think it asked for the 3rd worker. Why did I say 5th worker? Oh, okay, so what is the marginal product for the 3rd worker? Why did I say 5th worker? That's weird. Anyway, it's all here, okay? So for the 3rd worker, it's 90. So what I meant to put here was, well, let me just keep going here. Let me see why 5th worker. Oh, is it asking about? No, it's not. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so we're gonna get to the 5th worker. So that's why that's in there. Well, anyway, the marginal product for the 3rd worker is easy. It's going to be, I didn't even put it in here, but it's going to be right here. Okay, 90. Okay, because 450 divided by 5. Okay, so that's easy. Now the next thing they're asking is define the law of diminishing marginal returns, and you can find that in your book. You can find that in the Khan videos. You can find that online. So I'll leave you to do that. It's easy. That's not hard to find at all. As you produce more, your returns diminish, decrease. That's all that is. But I'll let you look that up. Diminishing marginal returns first occur with the hiring of which worker for the firm. Well, that's not hard. We look at marginal product. From going from 1 to 2, the marginal product increases from 90 to 100. But going from 2 to 3, the marginal product decreases. So this is where a diminishing a marginal return starts right here, going from when we hire a third worker. The third worker is not able to be as productive as the second. And then the fourth is less, the fifth is less, and the sixth worker is just in the way, basically. It doesn't do a whole lot of anything, okay? So that's how that works in theory, all right? So what else do we got to do? So let's see. So that would be for the third worker. Yep, okay. Let's go back over that. Okay, so what is the highest daily wage that a firm is willing to pay to hire the fifth worker? Okay, well, how do we figure that out? Well, in order for them to hire the fifth worker, the wage rate needs to be equal to the marginal revenue product, okay? So the marginal revenue product per day for the fifth worker is $300. So in order for them to hire that fifth worker, their wage rate cannot be over $300, okay? Because they're not going to want to pay a worker more than they're bringing into the firm in their production, okay? And then E, what will happen to the demand for labor if the market price of the product increases? Okay. Let me get you guys out of the way here. So, So I thought I had a graph in here. I guess I don't. I have a graph for the next one. So let's see. Where was I? Okay, so at the current price of $5, the firm will not hire the sixth worker because the marginal product of the sixth worker is only 20, right? And the marginal revenue product of the sixth worker is 100. So they wouldn't hire that sixth worker. So they would hire up to the fifth worker, right? If the price was $5, if the price of the good was $5, then the fifth worker, 60 times 5 is 300. So the fifth worker's wage rate at 300 would match the marginal revenue product right here, okay? Now, let me just jump back over to what they're actually asking so I'm not confusing everybody. Okay, so it's a 300. And what will happen if the demand for the product increases? Okay, well, and I just explained here that why they would not hire the sixth worker, because in a perfectly competitive labor market, they have to pay them all the same. So they would have to pay that sixth worker more than he was bringing in. But what would happen if the demand, what would happen if the market price increases? That would make the demand for labor actually go up. Why? Because if, say that the price really increased, say the price increased to $15 a unit, because it's asking what would happen if the demand for, what would happen to the demand for labor if the market price of the product went up, okay? So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it really goes up to $15 a unit. Now, if it goes up to $15 a unit, well, 15 times 20 is 300. So if whatever they're selling were selling at a higher price of $15 a unit, then the marginal product would be 15 times 20. So this would go up to 300, which means now they could actually hire the sixth worker. So that shows you with the numbers what would happen. The short answer is that if the market price for a product goes up, that's going to mean that the firm is going to be able to hire more labor, so the demand for labor for the firm is going to increase, okay? And the way they say, let me just look at what they're saying, just out of a curiosity. Yeah, because of what I said, the increase in the product price raises the marginal revenue product of labor, because the marginal revenue product is the marginal product times the price. So if the price goes up, then this is going to go up, okay? Which means they can hire more labor. But in this case, with the way these numbers are, in order for them to afford to hire this sixth worker, the price, because he's only producing 20, the price would have to go way up. It would have to go up to 15 in order for a 20 times a 15 to equal the wage rate of 300. Okay, that would be a big price increase. Okay, that's it for number 2. So moving on to number 3. Once again, now we have the same type of problem, except look what they're giving us here. They're not giving us anything about the marginal revenue product. They're giving us the actual output, or they're not giving us this either, right? They're not giving us they're giving us the output, but in a different way, okay? They're giving us, sorry about scrolling through like this, I apologize. They're giving us the output per day with only the labor, okay? So this is like a number 1, but not quite like a number 1, because we only have labor, we don't have capital, okay? So what do we got? This is the HZR ad company produces clock radios, as shown in the short run production function right here. We've got the number of workers and the number of radios produced per day. And the price is $20 per radio. That's the price. And the firm can hire all the workers they want. And the workers their wage is $90 per day. And assume that labor is the only variable factor input, so we don't have to worry about the capital here, just labor. Okay, so using the information above, draw a correctly labeled graph of the HZR ads current supply curve of unskilled labor. Okay, well, look what it says right here. The wage is $90 per day. So it's going to be $90 no matter how many workers that they hire. It can hire all the workers they want at $90 per day. So that graph is going to look like this, okay? It's just going to have a perfectly horizontal supply of labor curve because the wage rate is set at $90 a day, and they can hire as many workers as they want all the way out, okay? So for the problem, all you really need to have is the wage rate here, 90 here, number of workers here, and the horizontal supply of labor, or the marginal factor cost curve, or the supply of labor. You can do it any way you want this way. Now I've added all this in. I've added the demand so I can better explain the problem, okay? But what they're asking you for in part one right here, when it's asking you to draw it, the only thing you have is, see, this isn't on the graph, right? The labor market graph doesn't have radios. Don't get confused. It just has the wage rate and the number of workers. This is the labor market. I should say labor market. Sorry about that. That's confusing. Labor market 4, right? So you're not going to have these numbers right here on this graph at all. You're just going to have the workers and the wage rate. Now, I've added some things here, okay? What the graph gives you, the problem, what the problem gives you is just the quantity of radios. But we know the price and we know the cost of the workers. So knowing that, we can say, well, the marginal product is easy. It's just the difference, right? It's just whatever the difference is in the totals all the way up. See, a 20 to a 45, 60 to 70. So this is the marginal product. And then over here is a marginal revenue product, where I've simply multiplied 20 times the price, which I forgot what it was already, which is $20, okay? So 20 times 20, 25 times 20, 15 times 20. So the marginal revenue product is easy, right? And the marginal factor cost per day, the marginal, not the total, right? If we're adding one worker, okay, which is what the marginal factor cost is. We're adding one worker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each time we add a worker, the marginal cost or the added cost is $90 per day. So this is the more information here that's going to be helpful, okay? So the question is, going back to the problem, using all of what we have, okay, we did that. Then it wants to know what this firm's profit maximizing output level is. Now, if we look at the chart right here, we can see where it is, because we do not want the cost to be more than the revenue, marginal, right? So when we hire this sixth worker, that sixth worker cost $90, but only brought in a marginal revenue of $80. So that sixth worker is not going to get hired. We're going to hire up to worker number 5, because worker number 5 was able to produce five radios, not 4, but 5. So because worker 5 could produce 5 more radios, worker 5 could bring in 5 times $20, the price. So it could bring in a marginal revenue to the firm of $100, and we only have to pay the worker $90. So he's bringing in, or she is bringing in, more than they're costing. So we would hire 5 workers, okay? Now, you don't have to do this for the problem, but I want to show it to you anyway, because I think for the problem, if you're doing this on an exam, you just have to explain it, okay, right here, like I just did, okay? But I wanted to show you what it looks like graphically. The demand curve for labor is downward sloping, right? And they're going to hire labor up to a point where the demand curve is also the marginal revenue product curve. So this curve right here is actually these numbers right here, okay? So we're actually graphing these numbers on the demand curve. This is the labor demand curve, the marginal revenue product. So graphically, they're going to hire up to a point where marginal revenue product equals wage rate, right? This is the wage rate. The supply of labor is the wage rate. So they're going to hire up to this point. And the way these numbers are, that point is somewhere in between 5 and 6 workers, okay? So 5 workers has a marginal revenue product of 100, right? Right up here, see? And so they're going to produce 75 units. And then in order to they're not going to produce 79 because that would mean hiring a 6 worker, which has a marginal product of 80, which is less than the wage rate. So they're only going to hire up to this point right here, okay? Which is theoretically 5.5 workers, which is kind of weird, but that's what it is, okay? Does everybody understand that? Is anybody lost? Confused? Okay. So the way I explained this was, I just said that marginal revenue product is greater than marginal factor cost. 100 is higher than 90, and an output of 75 radios per day, which we can see up on the chart right here, right? 100 is greater than 90, right? At 6, it's not. At 6, marginal revenue product at 80 is less than marginal factor of cost. So they're going to produce, in order to earn maximum profit, they're going to produce somewhere between 75 and 79 if they can hire half a worker, which I don't know how they can do that, but I would just say 75 realistically, okay? That would be fine. That would be a good answer, okay? And I believe, nope, we're not quite done, okay? What would happen, whoops, sorry. What would happen if we have a new technology? How would that affect the quantity of unskilled labor? Well, if we have a new technology that increases the productivity of the workers, what that would do is we would go back up here to the graph. Let me get you guys back out of the way. And that would mean that for every worker, the marginal product is higher because we've got some new technology that means that every worker can produce more. And so if the marginal product is higher at every worker level, then the marginal revenue product is going to be higher at every worker level, at every number of workers, right? Which means that this curve right here, since it's higher, a little bit higher for every worker, it means that curve shifts to the right, okay? So at 5 workers, instead of having a marginal revenue product of 100, it's going to be 120. It's going to be something up here, okay, at every level. So that's going to shift the demand for a labor curve or the marginal revenue product curve to the right for the firm. So it means that the demand for labor for the firm is going to increase, okay? That's your answer. What else are we asking here? And the wage pay, okay. This is a trick, okay? Because it's a perfectly competitive wage market. So even though the demand curve shifts to the right and they may end up hiring, that they can now hire out to here, right? If it shifted out that far, that they could hire, 7 workers, right? But the wage rate is set by the market. So the wage rate does not change at all. It's set 90 forever, okay? Until something in the labor market changes. This is just the individual firm, okay? So the answer is going to be that the demand for labor for the firm increases, the demand curve or the marginal revenue product curve for the firm shifts to the right, but the supply of labor curve doesn't go anywhere. It's going to be perfectly elastic at 90, okay? Wage does not change. And that, I believe, is the final answer. Yep, that's it. Okay, guys? Anybody have any questions? Is anybody asleep? You guys awake? Okay, good. Okay, I wanted to show you guys, I want to take attendance, first of all. So let me see here. Where are we? Let me clear this out because that's from the last time. Okay, so let me see. Now make sure that I get everyone, okay? I need to delete that road. Okay, so let's see. We have Abigail. I'm going to use, and also Annie too, right? Yeah. Eric's here. Annie's here. Let's see. I know I saw a bunch of others here too. Let's see who we got. Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Stephanie's here. And Annie, I got Annie. Mary Claire's here.
Hi.
Hi. There you go. And let's see. Sophie.
Yep.
Sophie's okay. And is that it? Did I miss anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay. Great, guys. I wanted to show you the calendar real quick so you know. Okay. What's going on here? So we are now in December, right? We're here, okay? So I'm going to do maybe one more session if you need it or want to come in. You guys don't have to, of course. Next week, I'll go over the Quiz 6 study guide. And then Quiz 6 and Discussion 6 and Assignment 6 are due the 16th of December. And then you get to breathe a little bit because you don't have to an assignment due again until January 27th. It's going to be available when you come back from your break. But because you're going through a change in semester here, I just gave you an extra week.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just, and why that's kind of important or a little bit important is that Assignment 6 and Discussion 6 and Quiz 6 will be your last grades before the first semester, okay? So whatever your average is after you do this next set of assignments will be what your first semester grade is, okay?
Okay.
And I will get the discussion up as soon as I can. I'm behind in everything. I always get behind because I, obviously teach other classes and my grading, I just get where I'm trying to do so many things. So my first priority is to get your quiz ready and your discussion for the next a chapter in the Harford book. And if I don't have it up soon, I will give you extra time to do it. So don't worry, okay? I won't hold you up because I'm behind. I will work very hard to get that done in the next couple of days, okay?
Okay.
And that's about it. It's going to get to a point, guys. It's going to get easier and easier because it's going to get now these free response and some of the multiple choice are some of them are things that maybe you haven't read about yet. I hope not in the multiple choice. I try to only have ones that you've had before, but it's going to get to be more and more and more review. So it'll get easier. And you just reinforce a lot of what you're learning, which is good because you can see on the free response assignment we just did, it was 3 free responses on the same topic, but they ask the questions differently on each one of them. So the more you do, the better you'll get at figuring out whatever they ask you to figure out for the exam. Because you never know exactly what it's going to be, you know. So it's going to be helpful. So I'm going to stop the recording, I guess. Where's that?